It's 9 p.m. on a Friday night. Your phone lights up. Another group chat. Come out. You never go anywhere anymore. You glance at your phone, then at your couch. Your book is waiting, your tea is warm. The apartment is quiet in that perfect way where everything just feels right. And you think to yourself, why would I leave this? If that's you, if you've ever felt guilty for choosing home over happy hour, for picking solitude over socializing, for preferring your own company to a crowded room, I need you to hear something. You're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're not missing out. And there's actually some fascinating psychology behind why staying home doesn't just feel good. It might be exactly what you need. Let me start with a confession. I used to think something was wrong with me. Everyone around me seemed to thrive on going out, being seen, filling their weekends with plans and their nights with noise. Meanwhile, I was the one declining invitations, making excuses, feeling this strange guilt every time I chose my apartment over another party I didn't want to attend. I'd watch people on social media living these seemingly full lives, concerts, brunches, spontaneous road trips, and I'd wonder why I didn't want any of it, why the thought of a quiet Saturday at home filled me with more joy than any crowded event ever could. Then I started digging into the research, and what I found completely changed how I saw myself. Turns out people who genuinely love staying home aren't avoiding life. They're engaging with it differently. Psychologists have identified something called high internal self-presence. It's the ability to feel more connected to your inner world than the external one. Your thoughts, your imagination, your emotions, they're vivid and rich and constantly moving. You don't need loud external stimulation to feel alive because there's already so much happening inside. While other people might need the energy of a crowd to feel excited, you can find that same depth in watching rain hit your window or getting lost in your own thoughts. That's not a deficit. That's a different kind of richness. Studies actually show that people who appreciate solitude tend to score higher in creativity, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness. They're better at understanding their own emotions, recognizing what drains them and what nourishes them. Most people go their whole lives without figuring that out, but homebodies often learn it early. Because when you spend time alone, really alone, you're forced to confront yourself. Your thoughts, your feelings, the parts of you that are easy to ignore when you're constantly distracted by other people. And instead of running from that, you lean into it. You get comfortable with your own mind. That's a skill most people never develop. But here's where it gets interesting. This preference for home isn't always something you're born with. For a lot of people, it's something that develops over time, often as a response to the world feeling too overwhelming, too demanding, too unpredictable. Maybe you tried to keep up with everyone else for a while. You went to the parties, said yes to every invitation, forced yourself to be social even when it drained you. And somewhere along the way, you realized that your natural rhythm doesn't match the world's pace. Your calm isn't a flaw. Your need for quiet isn't weakness. It's just who you are. And once you stop fighting it, once you give yourself permission to honor that, everything shifts. I remember the exact moment I stopped apologizing for staying home. A friend asked me to go out, and instead of making up an excuse, I just said, I don't want to. The silence on the other end of the line was almost funny, like I'd said something scandalous. But then I realized I didn't owe anyone an explanation. My time is mine, my energy is mine. And if I want to spend a Friday night reading, or watching the same movie I've seen 10 times, or just sitting in the quiet doing absolutely nothing, that's a valid choice. Not a sad one, not a lonely one, just different. Now, let's talk about what you're actually protecting when you choose to stay home, because it's not just about preference. For many people, home is where they can finally let their nervous system rest. If you're someone who's deeply affected by noise, chaos, unpredictable environments, or other people's emotions, going out isn't just tiring, it's overstimulating. Your brain is constantly processing, scanning for threats, trying to regulate in an environment that feels unstable. Home gives you control. You know what to expect. You can manage the lighting, the sound, the energy. And in that stability, your body can finally relax. That's not avoidance, that's self-regulation. Then there's trust. People who love staying home are often incredibly selective about who they let in. Not because they're cold, but because they feel things deeply. They know what it's like to open up to the wrong person and have that vulnerability used against them. They've learned that not everyone deserves access to their inner world, so they build a sanctuary where they don't have to perform, don't have to filter, don't have to shrink themselves to make others comfortable. Home becomes the one place where they can be fully, unapologetically themselves. And once you've tasted that kind of freedom, everything else feels like a compromise. Here's something people don't talk about enough. Staying home is also a choice, not a fallback, not a default. A deliberate, intentional decision to spend your time in a way that aligns with who you are. You're not waiting for life to happen. You're not hiding from opportunities. You're building a life that doesn't deplete you, and that takes courage, especially in a world that constantly tells you that rest is laziness, that stillness is stagnation, that if you're not busy, you're not valuable. But that's a lie. Rest is productive, stillness creates clarity, and peace is one of the most underrated forms of success. Let me tell you what a typical evening at home looks like for someone like this. Maybe they're reading a book, not because they have to, but because getting lost in someone else's world feels like magic. Maybe they're re-watching a movie they've seen a dozen times, not out of boredom, but because familiarity is comforting. Maybe they're cooking a meal just for themselves, slowly, intentionally, because the act of nourishing their body feels like self-love. Maybe they're just sitting by the window, watching the world move, feeling no pressure to be part of it. And in those moments, they're not lonely, they're full, because joy doesn't always look like excitement. Sometimes it looks like peace. But let's address the elephant in the room. People will judge you for this. They'll say you're antisocial, that you need to get out more, that you're wasting your life. They'll make you feel like something's wrong with you because you don't find fulfillment in the same places they do. And here's what you need to understand. That says more about them than it does about you. Society has this obsession with extroversion, with being constantly connected, constantly available, constantly on. And anyone who steps outside that mold gets labeled as weird or broken. But some of history's greatest thinkers, artists, writers, and innovators were people who spent most of their time alone. They didn't need the validation of crowds. They needed silence to think, space to create, solitude to process. The world benefits from people like that. It always has. Now, I want to talk about something that might resonate with you. There's a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is what you feel when you're surrounded by people who don't see you, when you're in a relationship but still feel fundamentally alone, when you're at a party and realize you'd rather be anywhere else. That's loneliness. But solitude is a choice. It's the conscious decision to spend time with yourself because you actually enjoy your own company. And once you learn the difference, once you stop confusing the two, everything changes. You stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. You stop apologizing for needing space. You start honoring your own rhythm. Here's a question that might unlock something for you. What are you actually avoiding when you stay home? For some people, it's overstimulation. For others, it's the exhausting performance of social interaction. The small talk, the pretending to be interested, the smiling when you don't feel like it. For some, it's deeper than that. Maybe the outside world has disappointed you one too many times. A friendship that fell apart, a betrayal of trust, a moment when you showed up vulnerable and were met with indifference. So you built a sanctuary where you don't have to risk that again. And if that's you, I want you to know, protecting your peace isn't the same as giving up on connection. It's just being more intentional about who gets access to you. Let me share something personal. I used to think that if I stayed home too much, the world would forget about me, that I'd become invisible, irrelevant, left behind. But then I noticed something. The world inside my mind was thriving. Ideas were blooming, thoughts were connecting in ways they never did. When I was constantly distracted, I was learning more, feeling more, creating more, all from the quiet of my own space. And I realized home isn't where dreams go to die, it's where they get the space to grow. There's also this beautiful concept in psychology called self-companionship. It's the ability to be alone without feeling lonely, to sit with your own thoughts and still feel whole. Most people can't do that. They need constant noise, constant distraction, because silence forces them to confront themselves. But people who love staying home have mastered something rare. They've learned to be their own best company. They don't fear their thoughts. They don't run from their emotions. They can sit in stillness and feel complete. And that's not isolation, that's self-connection. Now let's talk about the people in your life who don't understand this. The friends who stopped inviting you places. The family members who ask if you're okay with a tone that suggests you're not. The acquaintances who assume you're depressed because you're not constantly out and about. Here's the truth. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't have to justify your choices to people who measure happiness by how full your social calendar is. Some people will never understand that you can be perfectly content in your own company, and that's okay. Their confusion doesn't make your peace any less valid. But I also want to acknowledge this. Sometimes staying home does come from a place of pain. Maybe you've been hurt too many times. Maybe trust feels too expensive. Maybe opening up to people has only ever led to disappointment. And if that's true for you, I'm not going to tell you to just get over it and force yourself to go out. What I will say is this: your need for safety is valid. Your caution is understandable. But don't let past wounds keep you from future connections that might actually be different. Not everyone will hurt you. Not everyone will leave. And when the right people come along, they'll understand your need for space. They won't pressure you to be someone you're not. They'll meet you where you are. Here's something I've noticed about people who love staying home. They love deeply, but quietly. Their relationships might be few, but they're real. If someone is in their life, they matter. They're not collecting acquaintances or maintaining surface-level friendships out of obligation. They invest in the people who actually see them. And because they're so attuned to their own emotions, they're incredibly attuned to others' emotions too. They notice the sigh someone's trying to hide, the shift in energy when something's wrong, the things people don't say. They're the kind of people who understand feelings through pauses, not just words, and that makes them a rare and powerful kind of friend. Let me paint you a picture of what home means to someone like this. It's not just four walls and a roof. It's a state of mind. It's the place where judgment doesn't exist, where you can cry without explaining why, where you can laugh at something no one else would find funny, where you can be tired without apologizing for it, where your energy isn't a resource that everyone else gets to drain. It's yours, and you get to decide how to spend it. That's freedom, real freedom. Not the kind the world sells you, the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to simply be. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but what about missing out? What if I'm letting life pass me by? Let me ask you this, whose definition of life are you using? If your version of a fulfilling life is quiet mornings, deep conversations with a select few, creative projects that no one else sees, books that change how you think, and peace that doesn't need to be performed, then you're not missing anything. You're living exactly the life you're supposed to. The world will try to convince you that excitement only exists outside your door. That adventure requires a plane ticket. That meaning comes from being seen. But that's not true. Some of the most profound moments of your life will happen in the stillness of your own space, and they'll matter just as much, if not more, than anything you could find out there. Here's a secret that took me years to learn. You can love staying home and still have ambitions. Your dreams don't have to be loud to be valid. Maybe you're building something quietly, writing something no one knows about yet, learning a skill in private, processing emotions that the outside world doesn't have the patience for. Maybe you're just resting, recovering, protecting your peace until you're ready to share yourself with the world again. All of that is valuable. All of that counts. You don't have to prove your worth by being constantly visible. Let's talk about the myth of productivity too. Society loves to equate activity with value. If you're not busy, you're lazy. If you're not grinding, you're failing. But here's the truth. Some of the most important work you'll ever do happens in rest. Your brain processes information while you sleep. Your creativity flourishes when you're not forcing it. Your emotional healing requires stillness, not hustle. So if you're spending your evenings at home, doing what looks like nothing to the outside world, know this: you're probably doing more than most people who are running themselves into the ground, trying to keep up with a pace that was never sustainable in the first place. And can we talk about the beauty of routine for a second? People who love staying home often have rituals that ground them. The same morning coffee, the same spot on the couch, the same playlist that makes everything feel right. To someone else that might look boring, but to them, it's sacred. Because in a world that's chaotic and unpredictable, routine is the one thing they can control. And there's deep comfort in that. It's not about being stuck, it's about creating a foundation that feels safe. I want to speak directly to anyone who's ever felt guilty for choosing home. You're allowed to prioritize your own peace. You're allowed to say no without offering a detailed explanation. You're allowed to protect your energy like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. The people who truly care about you will understand, and the ones who don't, they were never your people to begin with. Your worth isn't determined by how social you are, how many events you attend, or how well you perform extroversion. Your worth is inherent, and it doesn't change whether you're at a party or on your couch. Here's what I wish someone had told me earlier. The right people will come to you. Not all of them, not even most of them, but the ones who matter. They'll find their way into your quiet life and respect it. They won't try to change you or drag you out of your comfort zone for their own entertainment. They'll sit with you in the silence and feel at home too. And when you find those people, you'll realize that quality always beats quantity. One deep, real connection is worth 100 shallow ones. So where does this leave us? If you're someone who loves staying home, if you felt misunderstood, judged, or pressured to be different, I want you to hear this. Your quiet life is not a small life. Your preference for peace is not a personality flaw. Your need for solitude is not something that needs fixing. You're not broken. You're not missing out. You're just living in a way that honors who you actually are instead of who the world thinks you should be. And that's brave. That's intentional. That's beautiful. The world needs people like you. People who think before they speak, who feel before they react, who choose depth over noise, who understand that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply rest. You're not avoiding life by staying home. You're protecting the part of yourself that makes life worth living. Your peace, your creativity, your ability to feel things fully. And in a world that's constantly trying to numb us, distract us, and speed us up, that's revolutionary. Now, I want to hear from you. If you're someone who loves staying home, drop a comment and tell me, what do you love most about it? Is it the peace, the control over your environment, the freedom to just be yourself without performing? Maybe it's something else entirely. Share your story, because I know there are thousands of people watching this who feel exactly the same way, but think they're the only ones. Let's build a community right here in the comments of people who understand that home isn't hiding. It's healing. And if you want more content like this, deep dives into psychology, intentional living, protecting your energy, and understanding why you are the way you are, hit that subscribe button. I post videos every week exploring these topics because I believe the world needs more conversations about living authentically, even when it doesn't look like everyone else's version of success. Before I go, I want to leave you with this. Your life doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room to matter. You don't have to fill every weekend with plans to prove you're living fully. Sometimes the richest life is the quietest one, the one where you know yourself deeply, protect your peace fiercely, and choose your people carefully. That's not loneliness, that's wisdom. So the next time someone asks why you're staying in again, you don't owe them an explanation. But if you want one, Here it is, because home is where I don't have to be anything other than exactly who I am, and that's worth more than any night out could ever be. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your time. I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Until then, protect your peace, honor your rhythm, and remember, you're not strange for loving home. You're just deeply, beautifully yourself. Take care.